Last week we did a deep dive into the history of the Thompson and where it stacks up from World War II up against its predecessor of the Thompson from World at War, and you guys seem to enjoy not only that one but the one that we did the week before of the M1 Garand. So I figured let's keep it going. Let's take a look at more weapons throughout Call of Duty World War II and take a look at where they have come from in the Call of Duty franchise and how they stack up to, once again, those earlier renditions of the weapons themselves. So in this one today, we're going to be taking a look at the fan favorites of the PPSh-41. Now, known for its absolutely insane fire rate, the damage it inflicts, and of course, the audio is something that sticks in people's minds as well. From what we knew of with the PPSh in previous times, it has been changed around a lot throughout the times of Call of Duty. Not only from things like just World at War to the single player of Black Ops or to the Black Ops 3 rendition of the PPSh, there's been a lot of different attributes that have been changed around in a short period of time that have played around with fans' feelings, and World War II is no different in the fact that they've changed it up a little bit, but it's still a very viable option and, quite honestly, one of the more dominant SMGs. Whether or not you've had hands-on experience with the PPSh or not, the statistical breakdown will be something that gives a little bit of a second validation to that notion. So let's jump right into the stats, something that was pulled from live testing, so a lot of this stuff will be relatively accurate, but not necessarily pinpoint precise. So that said, as for the damage, I calculated it out to be around 30 HP per shot, which is in line standard with the majority of SMGs, and as of recently does actually match up against that of the Black Ops 3 variation of the PPSh as well. The rate of fire is something where a lot of people kind of had issues with it as well too, in which it was a major drop-off compared to the World at War version, the classic that everybody loved for so long. The rate of fire when I calculated it out was around 774 RPM. The ammo was a 30-round stick mag and a 52-round round drum magazine. The recoil was moderate and was something that was rather easy to control if you knew how to, but it just takes a little bit of getting used to firing the weapon and seeing that spray pattern in which you do get a little bit of kick. Now, as for the reload, that's something where the full reload when empty was about 2.5 seconds to rest. And the top off when you reload when there's still ammunition in the magazine, that came out to about 2 seconds flat. However, if you YY, you can of course shave off a little bit of time variably for each of these reloads, in which once your ammo is replaced on your ammo counter, the animation will still go on for about a half second more. Now, the effective use of this weapon is incredibly useful. It's one that is dominant in either close quarters engagements or about medium range engagements as well. I wouldn't necessarily go to the point of long range engagements just yet, but it's something that still dominates the battlefield, and what we saw in the beta, that's something that they were all relatively smaller maps to medium-sized maps, so of course the SMGs had some dominance there within, and the PPSh was a very viable candidate. Now, we know of course what it's like right now, but where does it stack up compared to the classic, the one that everybody will probably be comparing it to later on down the line? The World at War variation of the PPSh is actually drastically different in some regards. Now, let's start off at the top once again with the damage, and this is one where you'll see perhaps one of the biggest drop-offs because the damage is only at close range 22 HP and it drops off to an at-range damage of 14. So it's significantly weaker, and it's something that, of course, you'll want to have more damage over time, but where it ends up being compensated for is within the fire rate. The rate of fire in the World at War variation is 1,250 RPM, so significantly higher, and that's why the damage is less, because it's compensated by that fire rate. It kind of balances itself out. But moving forward, the ammunition is a little bit different as well. We do see the standard 35-round stick magazine, but there is a 70-round round drum, which has 71 in zombies and multiplayer though. So you do get more in that round drum within World at War than that of what you do in World War II. Now, the recoil itself is a little bit different as well here. It's moderate to high, depending on how far you're trying to shoot with it and how long you end up spraying. I personally believe that both are controllable, but each have their own intricacies to the spray pattern, so they're not identical to control. So they are, in a sense, two different variations to learn, but they are both controllable. Now, the reload was a 2.8 second full reload when empty, but that's actually bumped up to a 4.1 reload second with a round drum. Now, if you're reloading mid-mag, it'll only take you 2.3 seconds to reload. So the effective use of this one now, kind of wrapping it up with the World at War variation, it absolutely dominated close quarters. It shred through anything, and it wasn't anything brilliant at range, but again, close quarters is where it really shined. As for at range though, both for accuracy reasons and for the damage reasons, 14 damage over range is a whole lot of shots that you're gonna have to hit, even with a fire rate of 1,250 RPM. And given the recoil, the probability that you long range somebody while spraying isn't necessarily the best odds. So, of course, in World at War, this was more so a close quarters weapon rather than close to mid-range like we see in World War II. So this is where this one gets completely tough for me to gauge simply by saying which one would be better, because there are, of course, more effective uses in one game compared to the other. Like World War II's damage of this makes it more viable, especially at range, because it has less of a damage drop-off seemingly, but the fire rates and things like that from the classic are almost 500 RPM faster. So there are definitely pros and cons of each, but I think that when you come down to it, it really comes down to each their own, whereas each game has their own attributes which make them unique to not only that game, but also better suited for some certain situations in that game. So that said, while both do have classic roots, they do end up being a little bit different from each other here from World at War to World War II. So that said, I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback. Which one do you think was the more dominating force? Take into consideration whenever answering this, each one's different properties and which could end up doing certain things at a different perspective. So, or of course, just feel free to let me know whichever one you kind of liked more, or do you wish it would have stayed like the World at War variation, the classic? Whatever it may be, let me know down there in the comment section down below. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. And that said, if you guys did, make sure you drop a like down below. And of course, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe to stay up to date with everything we have here regarding Call of Duty World War II. We're gonna be crushing it with the content, still moving into the launch, and then of course afterwards as well. So if any of that interests you, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a beat. And finally, if you guys want to follow me over on Twitter, that is the best place to get connected outside of YouTube, but practically live on Twitter. So if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, link is down there in the description below. But all that said, out of the way, hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care, and peace.